Hello and welcome to Flory Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Hobby Boss's latest release. This is the 1/48 scale MIG-29K. Now I know what you're thinking, what's a MIG-29K? The MIG-29K is a very little known one, so as always with these manufacturers, I think they're going to cover them all. And the way you know that is because they usually release the less well-known aircraft first. Then we all go out and get it because it's a new tool, MiG-29, and then we'll still go out and buy the version that we actually want. It's just a ploy that all the manufacturers do, so they tend to release the sort of not so well known version, then they'll back it up with some of the others. So at least you do know they're coming, because they're not going to just stick with a MiG-29K. So anyway, really new tool and all the rest of it. We haven't seen one of these in quite a long time. Obviously your only option's really Academy, very old now, but you know, still nice kit, it's recessed. That's about it, it's recessed. And then obviously you've got the King of the Hill, which is a really nice kit, which is a Great Wall Hobbies one. Unfortunately, at the time of doing this in the UK, we haven't seen those for a long time. So they tend to sort of come along, we get a few of them, they go very quickly, and obviously they hold their value very well, being second-hand market as well. So nice to have another option out there at least. So in the box, we can see nice bit of box art for this particular one. We just drop the camera a little bit, there we go. You can see it's clearly landing on a very snowy one. I'd like to know the actual sink rate, but he's made it over that and he's touching down just there. But yes, very nice indeed. So a couple of options. You've got that sort of eggplant colour and obviously more in the grey. So the K technically is the naval variant of the MiG-29, so it's got a little bit beefed up gear, obviously arrestor hook, things like that, usual bits and pieces. I don't think the Russians actually use it currently, purely because their aircraft carrier is broken again, but the Indian one I think definitely do use it, so that's your option for this particular one. As you can see on the box as well, usual thing, nice decal sheet, a little bit of photo-etch, which is quite nice. Kit number for this one is 81786, and on the other side we can see we do get the usual plethora of nice weapons which will go along with this one as well. All right, so in the box we are greeted, as always, standard sort of way. We've got a little side pocket with them on there. We've got some of the details down in here for the MiG-29K. So obviously being naval, the nice thing is it folds up, so it's not going to take up a lot of room. Not that the MiG-29 does, all right, but definitely quite handy for having if you're into your naval aircraft and things like that. So, usual thing, generic, I should think, weapons. We can see Fuselage halves, which is the usual way of doing it, but again separate bag, which is quite nice. All right, so we'll have a look at those in a second. And then usual thing, all the various parts, normal thing with Hobby Boss, beautifully packaged and protected in all their single bags as well. So you can see we've got the cockpit down in there right the way through. All right, so some other nice bits and pieces of the fuel tank, usual things down in there. We've got loads of stencil data on a nice decal sheet, we'll see there as well. We've got our instructions, which is fair enough. And then over here we've got two types of nozzles, so we've got them open and closed, so that's very nice as well. A little bit of photo etch that we're talking about. And then last up we've got our clear parts as well. So as always, we'll dive in with the instructions first. All right, so this is technically what you call the U, the UB version, the K. It's the two-seat MiG-29, as you can see. So a couple of other bits of blurb just down in there. So usual thing, we've got obviously call out through where everything is, and then we are just diving straight on into here. So as you can see, really nice job. We've got the various seats, a little bit of photo etch making up the harnesses and all the rest of it. Forward and back side paneling in there, so obviously there's not going to be a lot of detail on the main parts because it's all going to be like a tub system right the way through. And then because obviously it's going to be on the underside, we've got the lower wheel well and all the bits and pieces just like that. Then again, it's going to be working this thing of obviously opening up the holes on the lower halves and removing a couple of bits and pieces, and then obviously we're just coming along fitting in all these items. So nose wheel system going in the lower one, a couple of little covers for the rear gear as well being put in, and then on the top side as well we've got the refueling port being put in, the cockpit being dropped into it, and then literally sandwiching the two together and the various bays put in there just like that. So as you can see, very nice indeed. So it's all falling over next to me, and then it's going to be a case of going through absolutely everything. So normal way that it's done with these ones, we've got the intakes being fitted down in here. I assume you can do with the doors open and closed down into this one. Well, it looks like they're in just the open position. on here actually. So sometimes they have them open and close, slightly different. They've got a grid system which drops down to stop any FOD going down into the engines. I don't know what size they are, but anything I think smaller than a golf ball isn't going to go down there. All right, then we're building up the insides of the doors, the various bits and pieces as well from the main gear, and then we're putting in the side pods. All right, so pretty much as we'd expect. Then we're working in the rear, so we have got posable rudders, which is quite a nice touch as well, so we can do those. And then we've obviously got down in here that centerline fuel tank, which obviously is pretty much a must, I would have thought, on this particular aircraft, giving it a little bit of range. All right, then the main gear being done, as you can see. Then obviously we've got the nozzles, so again open and closed nozzles we saw before, which is a nice touch. And then obviously we've got the flame holder and obviously the last stage of the engine going down in there, both of those dropping in the back and plugging in. Pretty much standard to every version of a MiG-29 I think we've seen. Then obviously the tails are being putted in there. Then we've got the main flaps being fitted into this one. And then obviously the hook you can have up and down depending on which way you want to go with it. Main gear, obviously it's got the gear door lights, couple of antennas and pitot tubes being fitted down into this one, and then same onto the front. And then obviously depending on if you're going to be doing this wings in or out, you can actually have it all folded up, which is a nice touch. Speed brake as well, various bits and pieces put in like that. Forward section of the actual canopy going down in there, and then the outer part of the wings with all the various bits on there with the ailerons fitted onto it as well. So again, quite cool that we can fold this thing up, definitely. All right, so with all of those down in there, say canopy being fitted, speed brake now actually being put into those actuators, tailplanes being fitted onto this one, and we've got a little handle of attack sensor, and then obviously we've got the nose section being fitted down in there with the pitot onto it. Weapons pretty much genetic, R77s, R73s going down in here, but we have got a couple of guided bits and pieces as well with the KH29s, so we've got those going down in there. And then obviously we've got the big KH31s being fitted into this one as well. All right, so again, very nice to see those. Oh, and the bigger KH35s as well down in here. So depending on what naval fit you want to put in with this one, but to give you an idea of where they all go, you have got a layout on the back as well. All right, so quite nice with those. We've obviously got decals down in here, placements on the fuel tanks, the weapons, bits and pieces just like that. We've also got as well a nice big pull out for obviously all decal placements and things. What's really nice, and I didn't realise it was like this, it's sort of that eggplant on the top, but the underside's actually in a camo. So you've got three-tone camo under here. You've got light, mid, grey and a bluey underneath there as well, which I didn't realise it had. That'd be quite cool if it was on top as well. So you've got that one down there. And on the other side, again, we've got the Indian one, which is a little bit more boring. It's just grey all over. All right, so again, just take your pick with those particular ones, but lots of stencil data right the way over it. So speaking of which, let's have a look to see if we've got the generic blurb. I've lost my knife. What have I done with my knife? No, that's over here. Okay, so somebody's infinite wisdom, they've done this. Oh, don't cut through the decals. They've glued the decal sheet to it. There we go. All right, so just about got away with that. Down in here you can see on the decals, and if you've got a microscope, it's not generic. You remember the old ways you used to do it like dot dot dash dash? This has actually got some stuff written in here, not that I can actually see it or read it, but if you've got some more powerful magnifiers you might be able to see it. But really nice. So down in there you've got blue 39 or you got 672 down in there, depending on which version you want to do. But actually, to be honest, the decals are actually quite smart. I was expecting it to be those generic dot dot dash dashes to give you an idea of them, but it's not. It's actually written text, so that's quite nice. So to be honest, I've never really had a problem with Hobby Boss decals. They seem to work quite well. Right, okay, so last up we've got a little bit of photo etch down in here. So this is that grill system that drops down to stop FOD, as you can see. So we've got some harnesses, heads-up display area down in there, and a couple of other little handles for you, and a couple of little sensors. That's quite nice. That's enough. All right. So into the main bit of it, we've actually got the. It's going to slide off the back. Hopefully, there we go. Just put this down in here. So we've got the main parts. Actually, that's quite nice. Really does look quite good. That. So dropping down nice and close, you can see some really nice details down in there. So we've got really nice, sharp, crisp panel lines, maybe a little bit overdone, but actually I think that's quite nice. All right. And then obviously we've got a little bit of riveting detail down in there as well. And actually it's not a bad texture right the way over it. I actually quite like that. What's nice as well is the transition from obviously the flat here to the vertical, if you like. There's no difference into it. It's smooth, it's consistent right the way through. Whereas of old you would have noticed it sort of peters out a little bit and then comes back again. That's really very, very nicely moulded indeed. Up here at the front, as you can see, around the iris tracker, obviously the cooling vanes for some of the communication, so the instrument panel down in here is nicely done. Side panels, very good. I'd say the biggest difference between this one and your standard MIG-29 is you haven't got the giant louver doors just down in here from the top, so it doesn't actually have them on this particular one. But generally not a lot going on inside because we know it's a tub that's going to fit both of them down in there. But yeah, no, that's really nice. That's a very nice upgrade to it. Is it as good as the Great Wall Hobbies one? Yeah, probably not, but actually I think this one's a lot more straightforward, shall we say, from a build point of view. Some nice touches down in there, but generally I do like the details. Down in here in the speed brake as well, we've got a little bit of detail just on the inside of that. It's actually a really quite a complex one-shot mould, you know, because considering that's just out the mould, just one. You've got ejector ports down in here and here that are going to have to be taken care of, but actually I think that's very nice indeed. All right, that's quite nice. On the flip side, we have the underside. So down in here, and again, we're going to have to cut the nose off or it's going to make it round it, just about. They're quite chunky. But again, looks very nice. Nice detail right the way through. It's very thin down here on the back. I can see that because if you can notice it, I can see light actually just on these edges down in here. These are very, very thin, which you can see down in here. These are really, really thin. The camera's going to pick it up, but I can see light through it. It's that thin. Very nice. Wheel well details, pretty well nice. Again, exactly the same. We have got obviously these. It would be nice if they moved them slightly over here to where the pylon is maybe. So when the actual injection port is in, so obviously these are the ones that go in and fill it all with the plastic, with the styrene, all right? If they put them right the way over there, it would have been fine. But unfortunately they haven't. They've actually just put them there. So again, next time people, put them in just over here if you are watching. It'll save just a little bit of cleanup and job. But no, really, really nice. Good level of detail. The recessing looks very nice. All the riveting details, all the various parts down in there look pretty darn good. So yeah, it's a nice, good, clean, catch it in the light, you can see, really nice, crisp moulding on all of that. That's very nice indeed. So where do we want to go? I'll tell you what, we'll just go as we can see it. All right, so next up, we've got down in here. So this is the, I assume, the tails, because they're rounded off. And again, nice, sorry, catch it, here you go. Really nice detail with those. We've got the nose down in here, and it's got the tapered edge to it right the way through, which is a nice touch. Very good. This is the wing fold mechanism, a little bit basic, but I'm sure you could liven that up a little bit with a little bit of wiring and all the bits and pieces in there. Generally very nice indeed. Good job. Then we've got a couple of nozzles. So I assume this is going to be a match pair, so I'll just grab one for the minute. So again, this is sprue D. So you can see it just down in here. So here's those nozzles. Again, pretty darn nice indeed with those. There's no internal details to these nozzles at all, which is a little bit of a shame. It would be nice to have some internal things going on, but it's purely just external on those, but they are one piece. We've got the flame holders down in here, compressor blades, bits and pieces, and then over here we've got some stuff for the oleos. We've obviously got some head padding, lights, some of the small parts all the way down in here, and then over here as well we have got some of the other bits and pieces. So that's actually looking very nice indeed. Okay, so some of the bigger screws. Over here we have sprue H, as you can see. So that giant fuel tank that goes in the middle, which actually gives the MiG-29 a bit of legs, all right, is okay. We've got the pylons down in here, some of the bigger missiles and stuff like that, and the front and rear sections of these particular ones. So again, as you can see. Okay, so sprue B, as you can see, looking very nice. So we've got the cockpits, we've got the framework, we've got some of the engine area, various parts down in here like that. So again, you can see, The cockpit detail. Again, very, very little detail on these cockpit panels and stuff. It's a little bit, you know, bold and flaky and all the rest of it. I imagine a nice Quinta set in there, or a colour photo etch set would look really nice, because you are going to see it, especially if you've got the canopy open. But generally, very nice all the way through. Wheel wells detail, things like that, also looking quite nice. Generally, all looking pretty darn good. On the inside, we've got this thing they're doing, which is like big square ejector pins to get some of this stuff out, which is absolutely fine. We've got no ejector pins down in here as well for the actual intakes. So that's very nice indeed. And everything else, all the small parts look quite nice. There is the odd lumpy bit down in here, you can probably see on here, little bits, but generally that is all very nice indeed. Okay, so down in here we've got some of the areas. So if I can find the end, there's the end. Okay, just take that off. So sprue A, as you can see, got the various parts for the tails and all the rest of it. And you might imagine one of the nice things about a MiG-29 is all this riveting detail. You can see lots of it down in here, looking very nice indeed. So that's what we're going to take a wash, absolutely lovely. And on the other side, so we've got the flaps and the various parts down in here. I assume this is the speed brake coming up. And again, there's no real detail on the inside of the speed brake unless there's a plug-in part, which I don't think I saw. But generally we are okay. That all looks pretty darn nice. Not see any problems with any of that. Even the control grip and things isn't too bad at all. It's got nice detail on that. So that's all looking pretty good, like that. Then we got the intakes. So again, these are one-piece intakes going in, so it's not like we've got to put them together. So we've got the intakes, as you can see, running down in here. Looking pretty nice. All right, and then over here we've obviously got the main bits. So again, intakes looking pretty good. Nice detail on those. Again, you've got sleeves which are going to be carrying those in through. Let's get that to focus. There we go. Looking very nice indeed. And then down on here we've actually got the various bits. This is for the inside of the tails. Very nice. Inside of the doors. Again, no ejector pins on those. Looking quite nice. Got these rear parts for the engine, which are going to be covers over the back. The main gear system down in here. These sort of the main gear areas, which sort of poke back, give them support. All looking very nice. And again, all the ejector pins, they're either flush or they're slightly recessed, which is good. Alright, so we got weapons down in here, generic sets to be honest. Hobby Boss, you know, I'm sure these are probably just all the usual ones from something else, but as you can see, you do get a full accompaniment of some very large weapons. So we've got the fuel tanks, the little slinky tanks as I call them, down in here. And again, you've got the big missiles down here, the big anti-ship missiles, things like that as well. So again, take your pick. But again, they are very nicely detailed. And say these little slip tanks, skinny ones, looking very nice. Those missiles, once they get put together, I think will look very nice indeed. Or even the little R's, the little infrared ones, looking very nice and sweet. And again, separate fins all the way through. All right, but even the Great Wall Hobbies one, it seems to be they're moving away from the old slide moulding type stuff. These huge pylons as well for carrying those big anti-ship missiles. Again, huge, big, chunky one-piece pylons with those. Nozzles wise, sorry, so it's the first part of the nozzle. I was getting confused with those, and then this is the second part. And to be honest, it's a match pairs, as you can see, and there is internal details into them. So I take it all the way back. All right, a little bit of flash on them, but easily clean up. And again, looking very nice for these one-piece ones as well. And again, it's quite nice that you've got opened or closed, depending on how you want to display it. And again, some nice internal details in. So again, you're going to go this far, then it goes onto the other nozzle, going back into the engine where there isn't any detail. But from what you're going to see, I think this is about it. But hopefully you can see it in there. There is detail right the way on the inside of those. Okay, so last up, we've got the canopy and the clear parts, which, like their sister company, Trumpeter, you would hope that these would be absolutely crystal, and to be honest, they pretty much are. There is some framing, and it is deliberate, which are in the inside of these, but there is a centre seam. I don't think they have a centre seam. I think it's each side, but so there is a centre seam right in the middle of that, and there's definitely a centre seam in the middle of these, which is strange because obviously we looked at a Trumpeter kit yesterday, which is very nice, the J20, and that hasn't got a seam line in it, but for some reason, shortcut on this particular kit, it has. Obviously a lot of these lenses and sights really are for the big missiles, the anti-ship missiles. We've got HUD glass and obviously nav lights and things like that. Landing lights are down in here as well. A little bit of a shame, but to be honest with you, the clarity view, as you can see, is pretty darn good. There's not a lot of distortion down in there, but you are going to have to take out that centre seam. So personally, blade it, sand it, polish it, job done. All right, it's not going to get rid of it totally because it is a mould seam, so the mould seam will be all the way through. But yeah, it's all right. It's halfway there. Just a shame that it has got those in there. So, to be honest, again, this is one of those kits, not really into it, not into the C1 at all. Now I've seen it, I'm thinking, oh, you could fold this thing up, be quite nice, a little direct maybe, something else like that. You could actually do something with this one. And again, it's quite nice, you can do the Indian version with it as well. So that's a nice touch. So thinking of doing something along the Indian Navy lines, you could do a nice MIG-29K, India markings and all the rest of it, some nice weathering on it, would be absolutely fantastic. If you did want to do it as the Russian one as well, it's quite nice. It's got that camo scheme underneath, which is a lovely option, didn't know it had, as well as that sort of eggplant on the top as well. Generally though, kit I can't fault all the way through. Maybe just want to liven it up somewhat with perhaps an aftermarket set for the cockpit, maybe aftermarket seats. If you are going to display it open, I think you'll definitely want something a bit better in there. If not, if you're going to close it up, I'll just go with it straightforward stock because there's not a lot to see in there once that framing around the canopy is in there. My only slight drawback is it's annoying that it's got a centre seam right in the middle of the front windscreen, because normally you expect it on the big one at the back, but not the front one either. But this is obviously how this is moulded, like this, probably a 3-piece mould, undersides, 2 across the top, and that's why we've ended up with one there and a big one there. So that's going to take a little bit of work purely because you've got framework on the other side, but they are internal, don't forget. They're not external because it's structural on the inside of the actual windscreen, so it's not on there. So you could probably get in there and just polish it all out and away you go. Not a biggie, it's just a little bit annoying they've done it that way. I would have thought that this could have been done separately without the centre seam. This one at the back probably going to need it just because of the way it's moulded, because it convexes in and then goes out with a lot of these complex moulds just like that. Apart from that though, I think it's actually a really nice kit, and I can see myself building it as well because it's not too big. It's a nice straightforward kit. Hopefully, being Hobby Boss, should go together relatively no problem at all, and that way we can add some detail to it, liven it up, perhaps a really nice weathering job, and turn it into something a little bit special. Anyway, that is the gorgeous Hobby Boss MIG-29K 148 scale.